Alrighty, folks, it is Fed Day. We're going to talk about what we expect the Fed decision to be. We're going to talk about Jerome Powell in front of the microphone, but more importantly, where do we go from here? It does appear that the job market is weakening significantly with more and more layoffs. We've got UPS talking about 34,000, Amazon talking about 14,000, and the list goes on. Anna, what say you? It's Fed Day. What are they going to do?
They're going to cut, Michael. Finally, they're going to cut. Question is 25 or 50. You know, we really don't know because of the fact that we have this government shutdown and data has not been released. What usually I go to really look, there's two numbers that are a pretty good indicator of where things might go. And one, I've talked about a million times, the Conference Board leading economic indicators. And normally they would have been released about a week or two ago, and they still have not come out. And so we really can't see the real-time things that lead the economy. So while the Fed says they're data dependent and real time, if you've listened to some of the Fed governors like Christopher Waller, who's done some interviews in the last week or so before before they're supposed to be tight-lipped and not talk their blackout period, he really talks about the fact that the Fed governors have to be forward-looking. So yes, they're looking at data, but they're really having to look at where they think things are going more so than just, we're waiting for the CPI report and saying, here's where it is today, so this is what they're going to do because of where it is today. But really, Christopher Waller kind of said, hey, we do still look forward. The Fed usually their rate actions has been a forward indicator. A leading indicator is where is the Fed going? And it tells you where they think things are going, not where they think things are. So it's really important when we look at the leading economic indicators. It's essentially 10 indicators that aggregate the economy that say, overall, are things improving or are they getting worse? And in the last release in September for August data, basically 7 of the 10 were negative and increasingly negative month after month, about 3 months in a row. One of them was flat. And the only two things that were going well were the stock market and credit. Well, since that report came out, credit has started to deteriorate. We've seen some of the cockroaches come out. If you listen to Jamie Dimon, private credit loans going bust to the tunes of a few $100 million, and multiple banks being swept up, having given loans based on, to these lenders and these companies based on collateral that might have been fraudulently pledged to multiple lenders. And so you're seeing cracks in the credit system. So it wouldn't surprise me if they've got data that shows them that, credit's deteriorating and the only positive thing is still the stock market. So time will tell. But based on listening to Christopher Waller last week and his discussion that one, yes, he expected CPI to come down a little bit. And let's reframe that. CPI goes up. It's an indicator of how much is inflation growing, but they expect the rise to be slowing over time. And what Christopher Waller said, and he's an important Fed governor because he's on the list, that's narrowed down to 5 people potentially to take over for Jerome Powell. So when he speaks, we need to kind of listen to where his head is and where he says they're going. And he says, listen, we know that inflation is going to continue to tick up, but the rate of ticking up is slowing. And they are not that worried about the tariffs because even though they think it in the short term could continue to keep inflation higher than where they want that 2% to go, they believe that in the long term, it is going to come down. And we did see an inflation report come down and say it was a little less than expected. So with them not as worried about inflation and they're more worried about jobs, which are continuing to deteriorate since the last Fed meeting, I would bet money 100% that they're going to cut. Absolutely, for sure. The question is just, do they cut 50 or do they cut 25? I think maybe they should cut 50. And there's different arguments for whether they should be cutting or not, depending on what people are looking at. But I think they're trying to be really patient. And just in case inflation ticks up a lot worse, I think that they're most likely to come out with a disappointing 25% rate cut and then wait until their meeting in December to decide whether they cut, additionally. And I think that they will cut additionally, but they seem to be on this path that says, risks are on both sides. It's just that the risk is worse on the employment front, and they don't want us to go into a recession that's harder to pull you out of. So I think that they're going to try to go slow and steady. If they came out with 50, Michael, it would spark a market sell-off. It would show panic. And I think the market correcting could self-perpetuate going into a faster and deeper recession. because it's the top income earners that are the only ones really keeping this economy afloat based on their increased wealth of the stock market, equity in their homes, et cetera. So if the stock market corrects, that will be a reversal of the little spending that we have left that's actually positive to GDP. And I don't think that they want to take that chance. So I'm going to bet they come out with 25 basis point cut tomorrow and continue to tell us that we're watching the labor market, that they're data dependent, and that they will just have to see how things go, going forward.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. I don't see 50 as a possibility. In fact, I see 0 as a higher probability than 50, basically because lack of data, right?
Yeah.
I do think if they went 50, with quote unquote the lack of data, it would send that exact, kind of wrong signal, right? That they're overly concerned, and the market would react very quickly.
And I think they would to 0 too, because they'd react
possibly.
overly concerned about inflation. And so then, then you've got the opposite, two-headed monster, spooking the market.
Yeah. So I think we're getting a quarter tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah.
I do think Powell will get in front of the microphone and not be as hawkish as he was last time. I think he's going to come out and really highlight that the job market is weaker and seems to be getting weaker. He's probably going to talk about the lack of data being a problem. And to your point, I think there's increasing bets that December is a 50.
Yeah.
I really do think December could be a 50 basis point cut because the job market is going to get worse, and inflation is going to prove to be not as bad as expected. And the funny thing about CPI, this, but for the audience, CPI headline came in at 3%. Underneath that, shelter, the largest single component, was reported to be 3.6, which is just all kinds of wrong.
I agree.
The day before, we got single family homes up 1.7% and multifamily negative or down 0.8%. So if you call shelter 1 and you correct for the overstatement, you actually have CPI headline at roughly 2%.
Right.
It's that simple. If you want to declare victory, Fed, simply address the horrible calculation on shelter, and congratulations. You can declare victory. You're at 2%. It's that simple. So it's just wild that they don't acknowledge that shelter is grossly overreported.
Right. And not only that, but GDP, if you look at real as a measure of health of the economy, is grossly overreported. And I believe it might have been Christopher Waller again in this interview. I hope I'm not quoting the wrong person, but I think it was Christopher Waller who admitted that, he was asked basically during a recent meeting, I think at the World Economic Forum, about immigration and the impact that has on employment. And he basically came out and said, the fact that we had so much immigration not only made employment look better before, but it's underreporting unemployment today. And that without that difference in numbers, that unemployment today really is higher than 5. I don't remember exactly the number, 5 point what, but it was over 5%. Wow. And so to hear the Fed governor admit, hey, one of the Fed governors admit that, hey, unemployment is really a lot worse than what the numbers show us, and we're not really confident in that number, it goes into the GDP calculation as well. But he also talked about, they asked him questions about, how much the Mag 7 is impacting GDP, all the investment into AI, how much is that impacting GDP? And he said, when you pull out government spending over the last year or two, and you pull out the AI investment, real GDP broadly across the country is in the negative. And so he was concerned. He said, yes, I have concern that a lot of the growth that's happening now is growth in spending or front loading purchases because of the tariffs, that we really haven't seen that starting to reverse and what that means for the overall economy. But he basically admitted the economy as a whole is weaker outside of those, pockets of things like GDP. And that while the government has pulled back on its spending, AI is still a big piece of that GDP calculation, that when it's not there, we have a floundering at best economy and a weakening job market and nothing real robust to spark that gain. And so that kind of tells you what you need to know, that these headline numbers are not really everything, and that they at least are forward thinking and saying, we think things are going to get worse. Usually once employment starts to tick down, unemployment starts to go up, that's just the beginning. And it doesn't really get high until you're, pretty deep in a recession. And they're cutting ahead of that to try to keep it from getting too bad. And that's why, to your point, December could be a 50, depending on what happens in the data between now and then, to show us kind of, where are things.
Yeah. The other thing I'm looking forward to Jerome Powell talking about, it might actually even be in the statement that they release with their decision, is what are they going to be doing with their balance sheet runoff? Yeah. It's been rumored that that's going to be stopping sooner rather than later, possibly at this meeting, possibly December 1st or November 1st.
Yeah.
And that's important, especially for mortgages, right? It's estimated by both JP Morgan and Bank of America that simply the Fed stopping the shrinking of their balance sheet could reduce mortgages by almost a quarter of a point, or 25 basis points. So again, we are really close to 6%. Last time I checked, 6.19, something like that. And if they do stop the runoff and JP Morgan and Bank of America are right, we could be below 6% by the middle of December. And I think that's a psychological number for a lot of people. So the balance sheet runoff is something I look forward to them talking about and perhaps stopping.
Yeah, there's a couple of things there that I think not enough people talk about, at least in the real estate world, because they're all just going, where's the rate going to be? What's the Fed going to do with rates? And thinking that if the Fed cuts, then mortgage rates are automatically going to go down. But really what's more important than that is really the bond market. And what is the bond market telling us? Because the 10-year US Treasury is really more based on demand for US Treasuries. And so when we say the bond market, we're really talking about the 10-year Treasury as the baseline. But there's two things that are kind of happening with bonds. One, if they're very, very worried about a recession, they won't demand as high of a yield on a return on their investment, because they think, hey, recession is going to cause the economy to slow. Therefore, the safest thing to buy is a US Treasury bond. And so they flee to safety and they accept lower yields. And if that is what happens, then you will see the 10-year Treasury demand a lower rate of return, and that will result in 30-year mortgage rates falling. The other side of that is this fear of the growing debt of the United States and our inability potentially in the future, if we don't get a hold of the debt, to pay interest on the bonds without defaulting. The risk that we print money and, we basically create more inflation, more monetary inflation coming from government, funding a bunch of money into the system through loans and through helicopter money that creates inflation. Then they may revolt like they have the last two rate cuts, and they might demand higher interest rates, which could make US Treasuries go higher and 30-year mortgage go higher. So what we're seeing is really interesting, right? We're kind of in this inflection point where the bond market's trying to figure out which one is the greater risk now and into the next 10 years. So one of the things that if you look at a chart and you go back and you look at the Fed funds rate based on compared to the 2-year Treasury, what you usually see is that the 2-year Treasury starts to fall, and then the Fed cuts rates down to almost where that 2-year Treasury bond is. So the 2-year Treasury actually started to fall. I haven't looked at it in the last week because I've been traveling, but if you look at that 2-year, it kind of tells you where the Fed is going to go. When it goes up, the Fed might hold. When it goes down, the Fed may cut. And so that's one of the things that I look at. But just don't bank on certain rates for mortgages just because you see the Fed cutting rates, because it doesn't always work that way.
The 2 years at 3.49, down just 3 basis points. So again, just under 3.5 though. Under
3.5. And so that's a good sign that the bond market, at least for the next 2 years, is demanding a little bit lower rate than they might otherwise, which means they're not quite as worried about the big inflation and money printing bug over the next 2 years. But that's because they think that the economy is softening a little. What we could see, Michael, and I'm watching this because we don't know, is if the layoffs become increasingly flashing red,
prevalent,
like Amazon today. And for example, that could stoke enough fear that then the fear is we have a recession. So the safe asset is Treasury. So we demand a lower rate, But if they think it's going to be really bad and the Fed's going to have to print a bunch of money now, then they're worried that after the next 2 years, when we're coming out of a recession recovery, that we're going to have this big inflation again. And if they're locking up their money for 10 years, they've got duration risk that, hey, in the next 10 years, we could see this recession followed by inflation from money printing. Then that's going to drive up, the bond vigilantes will be back, and that's going to drive up, Treasury prices, and basically, drive up the yield. They're going to demand a higher yield, which could make mortgage rates higher. So when you've got deals to do good deals that make sense today. And if rates go up higher, you'll be glad you did the deal today. If rates fall, you can always refinance. So don't get too caught up on the Fed rate, but it at least tells you the trajectory of, do they think a recession's coming? And it's a bigger short-term risk. And I think the answer to that today is definitely yes.
Absolutely. Again, one of the things when you study history is the unemployment market typically takes the elevator up and the stairs down. And
yes,
we have had a lot of layoff announcements in the last, this month, really, with Amazon being the latest 14,000 white collar jobs. So again, the Fed's got to be paying attention to that. I think it's labor over inflation at this point.
Yeah.
Anna, where can people find you?
You can find me here on your show, on social media at Anna Kelly, REI Mom. And for real estate and wealth coaching and consulting, you can book an appointment with me at AnnaKellyInvesting.com.
Thank you so much. Have a great week.
Thanks. You too.